So maybe some thoughts on where things are with FSU and what's happening later this week.
Well, we know that the subcommittee of the Board of Governors is meeting on Friday. We will be there. They've given us 10 minutes to talk. Florida State will be there as well, and they hopefully have longer than 10 minutes. I think they do. And, you know, we have been trying to meet with each of the members of the subcommittee and talk to them about what it means to us. The fact that, you know, this is a huge economic development opportunity for us. And if we have businesses, as a matter of fact, our economic development director is meeting with somebody this afternoon, another digital media business that wants to come to West Palm Beach and wants to partner in this model that was designed 3 years ago, 4 years ago. Is it's like a three-legged stool. It was education, government, and business. And the business at that time was digital domain. Now we've got 4, 5, 6, 7, 10 other businesses that want to be involved in holding that stool up. So it's just, there's such a great opportunity here. And if this doesn't happen, we're going to, we have huge opportunities to build an industry cluster and to bring jobs to this region, not just West Palm Beach, but to this region, and to really make a difference. And we're just hoping that they'll understand that. And if they say no, and the other piece is it's an opportunity for students to stay in Florida. Students who graduate from these digital media programs or from the FSU Film School, they go somewhere else. They go to another state. This way they can stay in Florida. You know, and not only that, we have businesses here in our county that use digital media, Scripps, Max Planck, hospitals, the aerospace industry. And they're going somewhere else to get help designing their digital media and the work that their simulators and all the stuff that they do. They can bring that work right here in Florida.
I wonder when the board meets, how do you think they balance some of the political pressures they may be facing with the realities of what makes economic sense as you and so many people here in South Florida see it?
Yeah, I guess that's something they're going to have to struggle with. It's more than just a dispute between two universities or a disagreement with the Board of Governors. We have a huge opportunity here to make a real difference in this state. So,
do you know, has FAU been talking to the committee members as well?
I suspect they probably have, yeah.
How have your talks been going on the one-on-ones? I mean, do they seem receptive to what you're saying?
Very receptive, and really understand what we're talking about. And, I think the other piece is this is a different model. And, the university programs that we all went to were sort of traditional, you went to college, you went to the football game. I think in 20 years, we're going to be looking at very different university models. We're going to be looking at distance learning. We're going to be looking at online learning. I'm going to be able to, if I'm a student, I could take a class from Harvard, or I could take a class from University of Miami, or it's going to be a very different type of experience. And I think this is just the beginning of that wave.
Is there a plan B in case the Board of Governors decides to keep it in Tallahassee?
I'm not. Yeah, of course there's going to be a plan B. If we have people who are interested, then, we spent $2 million to build this curriculum. If we don't have that curriculum, we want our $2 million back. If that curriculum isn't being delivered here in West Palm Beach. Or we want the curriculum, and then we'll look at some other ways to deliver it.
Okay, so there's that thought that if it doesn't work, then maybe there could be another educational outlet to come in?
We're going to look at all possibilities, all possibilities. We want FSU here, and we're going to fight really hard to make that happen. If it doesn't, we'll deal with that if that happens. But our hope is that they stay.
Who would reimburse the city the $2 million?
Well, that's a good question. Yeah, I don't know.
It would be FSU, right? Because they're the ones that control that money. You're saying, so if they leave, you want FSU?
No, I'm not saying any of that. I just want people to understand that we invested $2 million in this. You know, and that's part of what we're going to be talking to the Board of Governors about. You know, we have invested $2 million, and we expect it to stay in our city.
Have you ever gotten a solid breakdown of that $2 million? How much has been spent? How much is still left? You know?
I don't know it, but I'm sure, I suspect Kip Reesmeister has a pretty good idea how that was used.
Do you know if even like half of it's been used?
I don't
Even a
know.
rough idea?
I don't know. Yeah. So, you know, we're talking to everybody we can talk to.
When do they make their decision, you think?
They have a board meeting in February, and the indication has been that the subcommittee will make a recommendation to the overall board at that February meeting.
And could they possibly take action that day? Or would it be something that maybe goes into March?
They're pretty firm on doing it in February.
So that $200,000 or so that the commission has ready to spend if they commit to staying here, so that hasn't been spent yet, that's on hold while you wait for this decision?
No, and it's the CRA. So the CRA board has that. No, we've told them that we would pay the rent for the rest of the year with that $200,000. And the agreement was we wouldn't start paying until we knew what the outcome was.
So then what are they doing now? I mean, if you needed that $200,000 to keep them here the rest of the year, how are they staying afloat right now?
I don't know the answer to that. I think that the generosity of the people where they are. You know, they're in City Place. I think City Place is understanding that we have to wait and see how this all goes.
Okay, so they're not paying rent right now?
Not that I'm aware of. I don't know that for sure, so, you know, we could probably check on that for you.
Okay.
But I don't know for sure.
Okay. Another topic that's come up this week is the gun store issue. And I was wondering in the last couple of days if there's been any new developments on your end?
No. Nothing new.
Do you know, have you looked into the whole issue of the state zoning versus city zoning and what can be done?
I haven't, but I suspect the planning department has. You know, what I've asked the planning department to do is look at what our zoning is, and let's take a better look at perhaps establishing some rules about proximity to schools or playgrounds and in the neighborhood. You know, right now that's zoned neighborhood commercial. You know, maybe we say gun stores only are in commercial, straight commercial zoning and not neighborhood commercial, because by definition neighborhood commercial is in the neighborhood. So they're going to be looking at that and bringing some proposals forward.
What about in this situation where somebody has already spent money but doesn't have a license yet? If you were to change the zoning, what would it mean for this store owner?
I think he would. I think that any zoning would be prospective and not retrospective.
Even if it's kind of in that in-between stage?
Yeah, I mean, he has the right to have a gun store there. He does not have a right to have a pawn shop there or a school. And right now, since both of those items are still included on his sign and everything, he doesn't have a certificate of occupancy or a business license at this point. You know, should that change, then, you know, we have to give him a business license because it's permitted there. Right,
even if this commission were to change the zoning before he complies?
I would have to check with our attorney, but I think we can't do it for just one special situation like that. I think it has to be for the future.
Looking down the road, any changes coming to Sunfest this year?
You have to ask the Sunfest people that. No, I mean, they're obviously going to be in our downtown.
There was some noise concerns.
We're happy that they're in our downtown.
Because there's nothing, what 2 years left on the contract, is it? Okay, there's several years, I mean, all the guidelines are set on that 10-year contract, correct?
Well, they understand. I mean, we've talked with them about all of our regulations on noise, and they understand that. We have a really good working relationship with them, and you know, I love that they're in our downtown. I would never want them to move. And, you know, that whole business last year that got so overblown, just totally overblown. Nobody was ever talking about them, nobody in my administration was ever talking about them moving somewhere else, ever.
So then who was that? Because they said the city had been talking to them about moving to Curry Park. Do you know who that was that brought that up?
It wasn't me, and it wasn't the people who worked for me.
What about the plan, the waterfront plan?
That's a really good question. I asked about it the other day, and I think we're still talking about another month, but we're in the process of getting a not-for-profit set up and getting a board for that not-for-profit. So there are lots of things that are going on, but the final plan we're still waiting for.
So in about a month they'll come with the final proposal?
That's what I heard.
And then the next step is what the commission just weighs the options?
Well, you know, we have to raise money. You know, this not-for-profit is going to be raising money, and then, you know, once we get some money, we'll decide how we want to use it, or whether we want to accept the plan as it is, or modify it, or do one little piece of it at a time. Yeah. So we'll see.
Also, there's been some talks about the northwest area, maybe, you know, some improvements. It was mentioned at a CRA meeting. Do you think that area had been neglected while a lot of attention and effort and money was poured into Coleman Park?
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. It's been neglected. I mean, I think we've always been aware that we need to address those issues. And, you know, there's a philosophy out there, and I understand that philosophy is that you take one piece at a time. You can't address all the ills at once, then nothing gets done. So you focus on one area, you do some good work, and then you move on to the next. And that's really what we've been doing. So.
What do you see in the next couple of years in that area?
Well, you know, I already see there's been some real changes in terms of safety there, and the residents are recognizing that. We are going to see some visual differences with 7th Street Square on Cameron. We've got a business merchants group that's up and running, and we're you know, you heard Shalonda the other night. She said she calls 50 businesses a week. And to try and attract people to bring their business. So I think you'll see some real changes in the next couple of years.
What about Coleman Park? That's an area we just heard over and over. Coleman Park a few years ago. You know, maybe it's not coming up as much in meetings anymore. I mean, what's going on over in Coleman Park?
Well, a lot of really good things. I mean, we've seen crime statistics go down there. You know, we've got some new lights, some new landscaping. Of course, the new houses, we still have houses that are for sale, and they're available for people of the very lowest income. You know, those houses have brought homeowners into the neighborhood, which is what we wanted to do. We wanted to increase home ownership, and that's happened. And, you know, we're continuing to work there, but it's sort of maintenance now and growing. We've got some Urban League is there, offering some really good programs, job preparation programs, and other things like that. So there's some good things going on there, and we've seen some changes.
Do you know about how many of the homes are filled? I mean, not an exact number, but, you know, 2/3, 1/3?
I'd say at least 2/3, probably more than like 3/4.
And what about, there was an issue, I think well over a year ago, that the homes weren't appraising for their value. Is that still a problem? Well,
what we've done is to do a rent-to-own, and that's helped us to do that. We've looked at some different financing schemes to address that issue.
Are the majority of the homes rent-to-own right now?
I don't know the answer to that. Yeah. I think there are options, but I can't tell you if they're all, you know, that's a possibility with all of them or just some of them. Yeah, I don't know. Okay.
Good.